In the most exclusive tower in downtown Seattle, every employee feared one woman. Victoria Sterling ran her tech empire the way glaciers carved valleys, slowly, relentlessly, leaving nothing unchanged. At 34, she commanded Sterling Tech with surgical precision, a $2 billion conglomerate built on artificial intelligence and cloud infrastructure, sustained by zero tolerance for human error. Her staff didn't love her. They obeyed her. The distinction mattered, though Victoria convinced herself otherwise. Fear kept systems functional. Love made people careless. The executive floor operated in perpetual silence, not the comfortable kind that comes from efficiency, but the tense variety that transforms conference rooms into examination chambers where careers lived or died on single syllables. Employees checked emails 3 times before sending. Junior analysts rehearsed presentations in bathroom stalls. The IT department kept backup plans for their backup plans. Victoria arrived each morning at 6:45. Her assistant learned within 1 week that coffee had to register exactly 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Black, no sugar. The temperature deviation that cost her predecessor the position, 3 degrees. The building's maintenance crews finished work before dawn. Cleaning happened after midnight. The rare occasions Victoria encountered service workers in hallways, they pressed themselves against walls, eyes down, breathing shallow. She preferred this arrangement. Invisible machinery, everything functioning smoothly without acknowledgement of the hands that sustained it. September 27th arrived cold and sharp. The quarterly review meeting convened at 9. Department heads filed into the glass-walled conference room on the 40th floor with the enthusiasm of prisoners approaching sentencing. They arranged laptops and folders with unnecessary care, buying seconds before the ordeal began. Victoria entered at precisely 9. No greeting. She positioned her computer at the table's head and opened the presentation file. The projector screen remained dark. She clicked again. Nothing happened. Robert Chen, the IT director, fumbled with his tablet. 29 years old, 1 month in the position after his predecessor accepted a job in Portland. Everyone understood why. Robert had tested every system yesterday, triple-checked every connection. Now his hands trembled as he approached the equipment. The words tumbled out before he could stop them. "Give me just 1 second, Miss Sterling." Victoria didn't give him 1 second. She gave him the look that made interns resign via text message rather than face her again. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Her voice emerged calibrated to inflict maximum damage. "How long have you known about this malfunction?" Robert's face drained of color. The words came out strangled. "I didn't. We tested everything yesterday. It was functioning perfectly." Victoria stood. The movement silenced whatever else he might have said. Clearly it wasn't functioning perfectly, or we wouldn't be watching a blank screen. "The presentation was scheduled to begin 3 minutes ago. I have investors calling in at 9:15. What exactly is your solution?" Robert moved toward the projector with jerky, mechanical motions. Sweat appeared on his forehead despite the aggressive air conditioning. His voice cracked. "I think it might be the connection port, or possibly the—" Victoria cut through his speculation like wire through butter. "I don't pay you to think. I pay you to know." 14 executives became statues. Someone's phone vibrated. No one reached for it. Robert backed away from the equipment. The apology came out reflexive, worthless. "I apologize, Miss Sterling. This has never happened before." Victoria's response landed with judicial finality. "Apologies don't fix problems. Competence does." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Robert understood, everyone in that room understood, that his employment had just ended. Only the paperwork remained. The door opened. No knock preceded it. That alone qualified as unusual enough to turn heads. A man in gray maintenance uniform stepped inside, pushing a cleaning cart. Late 30s, the kind of face that suggested frequent smiles, though he wasn't smiling now. Dark hair with premature silver at the temples. Tired eyes, the build of someone who worked with his hands but maintained the posture of a different life. He stopped just inside the threshold, taking inventory. Frozen executives, blank screen, Victoria's Arctic stare currently destroying what remained of Robert's composure. The janitor, Marcus, according to the name stitched on his uniform, didn't back out apologetically. He looked at Robert, then at Victoria, then at the 14 people who'd forgotten how to breathe. The words came out quiet but clear. Sorry. I'll come back. He started turning the cart around. Then he stopped. Something shifted in his expression, not fear, more like recognition of a choice that needed making. What emerged next shouldn't have. Actually, before I go, can I say something? Victoria's attention snapped to him like searchlight finding target. When she spoke, her voice could have frozen water. You may not. Please leave. Marcus didn't leave. He stood there with one hand on his cleaning cart, weighing something internal. Then he spoke anyway, and the words detonated in the silence. These people aren't trying to disappoint you. No one moved. No one breathed. The entire room recalibrated around this impossible moment. Victoria turned fully toward him. Each word emerged carved from ice. Excuse me? Marcus met her eyes, not challenging, not aggressive, but not retreating either. I said, they're not trying to disappoint you. The system failed, not the person. Everyone here showed up ready to do their job. Sometimes things break. That doesn't mean someone deserves to be humiliated. The silence that followed differed from the earlier tension. That had been fear. This was shock. Victoria took one step toward Marcus, then another. She stopped 3 feet away, close enough that he could probably see the fury crystallizing behind her eyes. Her voice emerged with dangerous softness. You're a janitor. The statement hung between them like an accusation. Marcus's response came steady. Yes, ma'am. Victoria's jaw tightened. You've worked in this building for how long? 4 days. 4 days. She let that number sit. Around the table, executives studied their hands, the ceiling, their own reflections in the glass walls. Anything but this confrontation. Victoria's words came slow, deliberate, each one a separate blow. And in those 4 days, you've somehow become an expert on how I should manage my employees. Marcus took a breath. What came out was both deferent and immovable. No, ma'am, I'm not an expert on anything except cleaning floors. But I know people, and I know when someone's genuinely trying their best and coming up short through no fault of their own. Victoria felt her control slipping, the sensation she'd spent 12 years learning to prevent. Her voice sharpened to a blade. What I do or don't say to my staff is none of your concern. You're here to empty trash and mop floors. That is the extent of your role in this company. Is that clear? Marcus nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am, that's clear. Victoria pressed harder. Then perhaps you should return to that role before you find yourself looking for a new one. Marcus gripped the cart handle. For a moment, Victoria thought she'd won. Then he spoke again, and the words landed like stones in still water. I understand, but I still believe what I said is true. They're just people, and people make mistakes. That doesn't make them failures. He turned the cart and pushed it toward the door. The wheels squeaked slightly on the polished floor. Everyone watched him go. The door clicked shut behind him with a sound like punctuation. Several seconds passed before anyone remembered to breathe. Victoria turned back to the table as if nothing had happened. Her voice emerged flat, emotionless. Robert, you have until noon to have this system functioning properly. Meeting adjourned. She walked out. The door closed behind her with the same definitive click. The 14 executives remained frozen for another moment before someone finally exhaled. One of them, Michael from finance, whispered what everyone was thinking. Did that just happen? Robert Chen stared at the door Marcus had exited through. For the first time that morning, he could breathe without his chest constricting. Victoria stood at her office window, 40 floors above the city. Below, cars moved like blood cells through concrete arteries. From this height, everything looked orderly, controlled, manageable. She pressed her hands flat against the glass until the trembling stopped. No one spoke to her that way. No one. Not the board members who feared losing their positions. Not the investors who feared losing their money. Not the employees who feared losing their jobs. The entire architecture of her life depended on that fear. It kept systems running. It kept people in line. It kept her safe from the kind of disappointment that once nearly destroyed her. The memory arrived uninvited. 22 years old, standing in an empty office after David Mercer cleaned out his desk and disappeared. 6 months of work stolen. Her AI algorithms sold to the highest bidder. Left with nothing but debt and a lesson carved into her bones. Trust was a luxury she could no longer afford. She'd rebuilt from that betrayal. Built an empire, actually. And she'd done it by ensuring no one ever got close enough to hurt her again. Fear kept people at the proper distance. Fear made them predictable. But this janitor, Marcus, the name on his uniform, had looked at her without fear. Not with contempt or defiance, just a calm certainty that made his words penetrate deeper. Like he actually believed them. Like he saw something she couldn't. Victoria turned from the window. Her coffee had gone cold. She left it untouched and returned to her desk. Work was reliable. Numbers didn't talk back. Spreadsheets didn't judge. But for the rest of that morning, she kept seeing his face. The quiet conviction in it. The absence of fear that everyone else wore like mandatory equipment. The intercom buzzed. Her assistant's voice. "Miss Sterling? Tom Brennan from Facilities wants to discuss." Victoria cut her off. "Not now." An hour later, a memo appeared on her desk. Handwritten, not emailed, unusual enough to command attention. Tom Brennan wanted Marcus Reed terminated immediately for insubordination. The memo included 3 paragraphs detailing proper employee conduct and chain of command protocols. At the bottom, a line waited for her signature. Victoria picked up her pen. The pen hovered over the paper. She should sign it. This type of behavior couldn't be tolerated. A low-level employee challenging her in front of the leadership team? Dangerous precedent. Her hand didn't move. The words echoed in her head. They're just people. People make mistakes. Victoria set the memo aside. She'd deal with it later, when she had time. She didn't examine why she kept finding reasons not to have time. Marcus drove his 2008 Toyota Camry through Seattle's morning traffic, rain starting to fall in that persistent northwest way that felt less like weather and more like atmospheric condition. He parked in front of the 2-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill and sat in the car for a minute, eyes closed, breathing. What had he just done? 4 days employed. He needed this job. $18 an hour night shift so he could be home with Lily during the day. No drama, no stress, just work and leave. That was the plan. And he had just challenged a billionaire CEO in front of her entire management team. Sarah would have laughed or hit him. Probably both. He opened the car door. Cold September air rushed in, carrying the smell of rain and exhaust. He pulled his jacket collar up and headed inside. Mrs. Chen was already there, helping Lily with breakfast. Pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse, the way Sarah used to make them. Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest. Lily jumped from her chair and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Dad, did I read my homework okay on the phone?" Marcus kissed the top of her head. Her hair smelled like strawberry shampoo. "Perfect, sweetheart. You did great." Mrs. Chen looked at him with the knowing eyes of someone who'd raised 5 children. She didn't ask questions she already knew the answers to. "Rough night?" Marcus poured coffee, held the mug with both hands for warmth. "Might have lost the job." Mrs. Chen didn't pry. That's what Marcus appreciated about her. Just steady presence. No judgment. After dropping Lily at school, Lincoln Elementary, 6 blocks away, Marcus returned to the empty apartment. Silence greeted him, the kind that reminded him he was living alone. The place was small but clean. Lily's artwork covered the refrigerator. Sarah's photo sat on the kitchen counter. Their wedding day, her smiling blonde hair catching wind. Marcus picked up the frame, traced his finger over her face through the glass. "Would you be mad at me?" The words came out to the empty room. "For almost losing the wow, or proud I spoke up?" The photo didn't answer. Never did. 3 years, 1,095 days since Sarah died. Marcus had counted the first 500, then he stopped because counting didn't help anything. He remembered the last day. Sarah in the hospice bed they'd set up in the living room, couldn't afford professional care 24/7. Lily asleep on the couch, 5 years old, exhausted from crying. Sarah's hand in his, grip weak as butterfly wings. Her voice had come out as whisper. "Marcus, promise me something. Anything. Don't let the world make you small." She'd coughed, blood on the tissue. "Don't let grief make you disappear." Lily needs her the real dad, the one who stands up for what's right. I will. Promise me you'll live, not just survive. Her eyes had met his, fierce despite the weakness. Live. I promise, Aunt Bun. 6 hours later, she was gone, and Marcus had broken that promise every day since. He set the photo down, looked at the clock, 8:15. He needed sleep, had to pick up Lily at 2:30, but he knew sleep wouldn't come. Instead, he opened his laptop, typed Victoria Sterling. Results flooded the screen. Forbes, the ice queen of tech, how Victoria Sterling built a 2B empire on zero tolerance. Business Insider, why everyone at Sterling Tech works in fear. TechCrunch, Victoria Sterling, the CEO who never smiles. Marcus clicked through to her profile. Professional headshot, black suit, hair pulled back severely, eyes staring straight at the camera. Beautiful, he couldn't deny that. But something in those eyes didn't come naturally. That hardness was learned, usually from pain. He read her bio, founder and CEO at 22. Father died when she was 25. Never married. No personal information listed anywhere. Lonely, Marcus thought. Like me. His phone buzzed. Text from Tom Brennan. Read, come see me before your shift tonight. We need to talk. Marcus sighed. Here it was. Goodbye job. Goodbye $18 an hour. Goodbye plan to avoid drama. But strangely, he didn't regret it. Sarah had been right. He'd let the world make him small. Let grief make him disappear into routine and survival mode. Maybe it was time to live again, even if that meant trouble. Victoria spent the afternoon in meetings that should have commanded her full attention. The board wanted quarterly projections. The legal team needed signatures. The marketing department presented rebranding proposals. She went through the motions, provided the responses, signed the documents. But part of her mind stayed locked on the morning's incident. At 4, she was alone in her office when she did something she never did. Access the HR database herself instead of having her assistant pull files. She typed, Marcus Reed. The record appeared. Sparse, like he'd tried to leave no footprint. Marcus Reed, age 38, position, janitorial staff, night shift. Start date, September 24th. Previous employer, Pacific Northwest Building. Maintenance, Bartons. Emergency contact, Ms. Helen Chen, neighbor. Dependent, Lily Reed, age 8. She clicked further. Employment history appeared in fragments. Before the building maintenance company, 2 years at a Seattle auto repair shop. Before that, a Gap. Before the Gap, United States Navy. Victoria's hand paused on the mouse. She clicked. Military service record. Only what HR kept for background checks. 10 years active duty. Warrant officer. Rate, engineering technician. Specialization, shipboard electrical systems. Honorable discharge. Reason for separation. Family emergency, hardship, discharge. The date of his discharge, 3 years and 2 months ago. Victoria sat back in her chair. Warrant officer, not enlisted, not academy-trained commissioned officer, but that middle tier, technical experts promoted from within, people who knew systems inside and out, leaders, and he was cleaning floors. She typed his name into Google. Nothing came up except a LinkedIn profile from 4 years ago, abandoned. The photo showed a younger version of the man she'd met this morning. Cleaner cut, in navy dress uniform, rows of ribbons on his chest. The bio listed his rate and ship, USS Abraham Lincoln, carrier-based. Nothing else. Victoria clicked back to the HR file. Under marital status, widowed. The word hit her harder than it should have. She closed the file, closed the laptop, sat in her chair staring at nothing. A janitor who used to be a Navy engineer, a widower raising a daughter alone, a man who'd thrown away a military career for a family emergency 3 years ago and ended up cleaning buildings at night. And he'd looked at her without fear because, as he'd said, I've already lost what I was most afraid of losing. Victoria understood that, understood it more than she wanted to. Her phone rang. Grace Martinez, head of security. Victoria answered. Yes? Grace's voice came through warm and direct, the way it always did. Former Seattle PD detective, comfortable with authority but allergic to bullshit. Heard about the excitement this morning. News travels fast. Always does. You know Tom's trying to fire the new guy? Victoria's jaw tightened. I'm aware. You gonna let him? That's not your concern, Grace. A pause, then Grace said what she always said when Victoria tried to shut her down. Actually, it is. Security means knowing who's in the building and why. And I've been watching Reed for 4 days. He's different. Different how? Different like he's not afraid of you. Different like he helps people without being asked. Yesterday, he stayed late to help the mailroom fix a jam sorter. Used to be a mechanic or something, knew exactly what to do. Different like people already like him, which around here takes most employees 6 months and a personality transplant. Victoria said nothing. Grace continued, You asked me once what I thought made good people. I said it's the ones who do the right thing even when it costs them. Reed did the right thing this morning. Cost him might be his job, but he did it anyway. Victoria's grip tightened on the phone. Is there a point to this call? Yeah, don't fire him. You need more people like him, not fewer. Grace hung up before Victoria could respond. Victoria sat holding the dead phone. Through her window, Seattle's skyline glowed in the late afternoon sun. 40 floors below, people moved through their lives, going home to families, to partners, to someone. She lived alone in a penthouse apartment that could hold 30 people but never did. Spent 16 hours a day building an empire. Had $1 billion and no one to share dinner with. When had that happened? When had success become isolation? She knew when. 12 years ago. When David Mercer taught her that closeness equaled vulnerability equaled devastation. But Marcus Reed had lost his wife. Actually lost her. Not just betrayal, but death. And he still had the courage to stand up in a room full of strangers and defend someone he barely knew. Victoria closed her eyes, pressed her fingers to her temples. The unsigned termination memo sat in her drawer. She'd left it there this morning. Part of her knew she'd keep leaving it there. Marcus arrived at Sterling Tech Tower at 10:45 that night. The building gleamed against the dark sky, all glass and steel and sharp edges. He took the service elevator to the basement, changed into his uniform in the locker room, and found Tom Brennan waiting. Tom was ex-Army, early 50s, running to fat but still carried himself like someone who'd once been hard. He leaned against Marcus's locker with his arms crossed. Reed, Tom, you know why you're here? Marcus nodded. Yeah. Tom pulled out a folded paper. The termination memo. Sterling wanted you gone. I had this ready for her signature this morning. Marcus took it, read it, handed it back. Tom didn't take it. Instead, he said something unexpected. She didn't sign it. Marcus looked up. What? Boss didn't sign it. Had it on her desk all day. Didn't sign it. Tom shook his head. 12 years I've worked here. Never seen her not sign a termination memo. Never. Marcus didn't know what to say. Tom continued. You served? Navy, 10 years. Figures, I can always tell. Tom finally took the memo back. You did something either really stupid or really brave this morning. Can't decide which. Probably both. Tom almost smiled. Yeah, probably. He tore the memo in half. You're staying on. But Reed, don't make me regret this. Don't make her regret it. You got one chance. That's it. Marcus nodded. Understood. Tom clapped him on the shoulder once, hard, and left. Marcus stood alone in the locker room trying to process what just happened. She hadn't signed it. Victoria Sterling, the woman who fired people for getting her coffee 3 degrees too cold, hadn't signed his termination papers. He grabbed his cart and headed up. The night shift was quiet. Most of the building was empty except for a few workaholics on various floors. Marcus worked his way up, systematically, floors 1 through 10 first, then 11 through 20. Methodical, efficient, the way the Navy taught him. Around 1 in the morning, he reached the executive floor. 40th, usually empty at this hour, but light spilled from one office. Corner office, the biggest one. Marcus wheeled his cart quietly down the hall. Through the glass walls, everything on this floor was glass, transparency that somehow created more barriers. He could see her. Victoria Sterling, still in her gray suit from this morning, sitting at her desk, staring at a laptop screen. She hadn't moved in 3 minutes, just staring. Marcus should have left, cleaned a different floor, avoided contact. Instead, he knocked on her open door. She looked up, startled. For a second, the mask dropped. She looked tired, human. Then the walls came back up. Mr. Reed, Miss Sterling. He kept his distance. I can come back if you need the office. No, she gestured for him to continue. Do what you need to do. Marcus entered, started emptying the small trash can by the door. The room smelled like cold coffee and expensive perfume. He worked quietly, aware of her watching him. After a minute, she spoke. Her voice came out different from this morning, less sharp, more uncertain. Why did you do it? Marcus paused. Ma'am? This morning, why did you speak up? He considered not answering, considered giving some safe, forgettable response. Then he thought about Sarah, about promises, about living instead of just surviving, because someone needed to. He continued working. That man was getting destroyed for something that wasn't his fault. Maybe you would have fired me for speaking up. Maybe you still will. But I have to live with myself either way. And I can't do that if I stay quiet when I see something wrong. Victoria was silent for a long moment. Then, you think I was wrong? I think everyone has hard days, but taking them out on people who are trying their best doesn't actually fix anything. It just spreads the hurt around. You know nothing about me or what I deal with. Marcus stopped working, turned to face her. You're right, I don't. But I know something about trying to control everything because it feels like the only way to keep things from falling apart. I know what it looks like when someone builds walls so high they forget what it's like to stand in the sun. The words landed. Marcus could see it in her face. The flinch, quickly hidden. She stood up, moved to the window. 40 floors up, Seattle glowed below them. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. My business partner 12 years ago. We were building something together. Something that mattered. She kept her back to him. He stole everything, sold our designs to a competitor, left me with nothing but debt and a very expensive lesson. Marcus set down his cleaning supplies, gave her space to continue. I rebuilt from that, built something bigger, better. But I did it by making sure no one could ever get close enough to hurt me again. She turned from the window, her eyes met his. Fear keeps people honest. Fear keeps things predictable. Does it? Marcus asked quietly. Or does it just make you lonely? The question hung between them like smoke after a gunshot. Victoria's expression cracked. For just a second, Marcus saw the person underneath the armor. Young, scared, alone. Then she pulled it back together. I should let you work. Marcus picked up his supplies, headed for the door, then stopped, turned back. For what it's worth, he said, you're not a bad person, but I think maybe you're a scared one. And scared people don't usually make the best decisions. He left before she could respond. Victoria stood alone in her office, staring at the door he'd just exited through. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her desk until they steadied. No one had ever seen through her that clearly. No one had ever cared enough to look. She returned to the window. 40 floors below, Seattle lived its life without her. Cars moved, lights changed. People went home to whoever was waiting. Victoria Sterling stood in her empty office at 1:30 in the morning and let herself feel for just a moment how much she'd given up to stay safe. The next morning, Marcus dropped Lily at school and headed home to sleep. But sleep wouldn't come. He kept seeing Victoria's face when he asked if fear made her lonely. The crack in her armor. He'd crossed a line, multiple lines, spoken to her like an equal when he was anything but. Should probably start looking for a new job, because even if she hadn't fired him yesterday, she'd find a reason eventually. But he couldn't bring himself to regret it. His phone buzzed, text from Mrs. Chen. Lily forgot her lunch. Can you drop it off? Marcus drove to Lincoln Elementary with Lily's lunchbox. The school secretary recognized him. He'd been volunteering since they moved to Seattle, trying to stay connected to Lily's life despite the night shift schedule. Mr. Reed, Mrs. Patterson called out. Lily's in art class. You can drop it with me or I'll take it to her, if that's okay. He walked the familiar hallways to the art room. Through the window, he saw Lily at a table with 3 other kids, working on paintings. She looked happy, focused, the way Sarah used to look when she was working on something. Marcus knocked. The art teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, smiled and waved him in. Lily looked up. Dad, you forgot this, kiddo. He held up the lunchbox. She ran over, hugged him. Thanks. We're painting families. Marcus looked at her easel. She'd painted 3 figures. A big one, a small one, and a ghostly figure in the background. Him, her, and Sarah. His chest tightened. It's really good, sweetheart. Ms. Rodriguez says it's okay to paint people who aren't here anymore, because they're still part of the family. Marcus knelt down to her level. That's right, Mom's always part of our family. Lily looked at him with those 2 old eyes that children of tragedy develop early. Are you happy now, Dad? The question hit him like a punch. What do you mean? Mrs. Chen says you seem different, less sad. Are you happy again? Marcus pulled her close. I'm working on it, baby. I'm working on it. He left the school with a lump in his throat, drove home, sat in the car for 10 minutes before going inside. Was he happy? He didn't know. But for the first time in 3 years, he felt something other than numb. Whether that was progress or danger, he couldn't tell yet. That evening, before his shift, Marcus stood in front of Sarah's photo again. I met someone, he said to the image. Not like that, just someone who's as stuck as am, and I think maybe helping her helps me. Does that make sense? The photo didn't answer. I'm not trying to replace you. I'm just trying to figure out how to live with you gone. How to be someone Lily can be proud of. Someone you'd be proud of. He touched the frame one more time. Then he grabbed his jacket and headed to work. At Sterling Tech Tower, the night shift began like any other. Marcus checked in with Tom, who gave him a curt nod and nothing else. He loaded his cart, headed up, floor by floor, room by room, conference rooms, offices, break rooms. Around midnight, he reached the 40th floor again. Victoria's office light was on. This was becoming a pattern. He approached carefully. She was at her desk again, but this time she wasn't staring at a screen. She was holding something, a photograph, he realized. She looked at it like it held answers to questions she didn't know how to ask. Marcus knocked. She looked up. This time she didn't try to hide the vulnerability. You're back. It's my job. I meant you're back in my office. I thought you'd avoid me after last night. Marcus pushed his card in, started working. Figured if you wanted me gone, you'd have made it happen by now. Victoria set the photo down, face down, he noticed. That's surprisingly astute. They worked in silence for a few minutes. Marcus emptied trash. Victoria pretended to read documents but wasn't actually processing anything. Finally, she spoke. Do you remember the best day of your life? The question caught Marcus off guard. He stopped working. Yeah, I do. What was it? The day my daughter was born. Everything went wrong. Emergency C-section, complications, scary as hell. But when they finally put Lily in my arms, and Sarah was okay, and we were all there together, he trailed off. That's the day I knew what I was supposed to do with my life. Be there for them. Everything else was just details. Victoria nodded slowly. Mine was the day my company got its Series A funding. $8 million. I was 23. Everyone said I was too young, too female, too inexperienced. I proved them all wrong. She paused. That was also the day I realized I had no one to celebrate with. Success tastes different when you're alone. Marcus moved to her window, stood next to her, both of them looking out at Seattle's nightscape. My wife used to say something, he offered quietly. She said the point of life isn't to be happy all the time. It's to be present, to show up for the people who matter, to be real, even when real is messy. Victoria's voice came out barely above whisper. I don't remember how to be real. Marcus turned to look at her. Yes, you do. You're being real right now. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. 2 people who'd built walls for different reasons, both trapped behind them. Victoria broke the moment first, looked away. You should finish your work. I'm sure you have other floors. Marcus gathered his supplies. At the door, he paused. Ms. Sterling? Yes? Thank you for not signing the termination papers. She looked at him then, really looked at him. Thank you for making me question why I was going to. Marcus left. The building was quiet around him, but something had shifted. Some invisible wall had developed a crack. And through that crack, light was starting to seep in. 3 weeks passed. Small things changed at Sterling Tech Tower, subtle enough that most employees didn't notice at first. Victoria stopped mid-sentence one afternoon during a budget review, the criticism already forming on her tongue, and instead asked the junior analyst, "What resources would help you fix this?" The analyst stared at her like she'd started speaking Mandarin. The changes accumulated slowly. Victoria implemented the open office hours she'd mentioned once in passing, Monday afternoons from 3 to 4. The first week, no one came. The second week, one brave soul from marketing asked about project timelines. By the third week, 4 people showed up with actual questions instead of terror. Marcus observed from his usual distance. He worked his night shifts, cleaned his floors, and occasionally crossed paths with Victoria in those late hours when the building belonged to insomniacs and workaholics. Their conversations remained brief, careful, but something had shifted. She looked at him now like he was a person, not furniture. Grace Martinez noticed too. She found Marcus one night in the 32nd floor break room, reading during his lunch break. Same worn paperback. Military history. She could see the cover from the doorway. "You're different from the others." She pulled out a chair without asking, sat down. "Most people who work here for a month learn to be invisible. You went the opposite direction." Marcus closed his book, keeping his finger between the pages. "Wasn't trying to be different, just trying to be honest. Honest gets people fired around here, usually. But not this time." Grace studied him with a cop's eyes, the kind that had seen enough to recognize truth from performance. "She's changing. You see that, right? Little things, but they matter." "I see it. Question is why? What makes a woman who's been frozen solid for 12 years suddenly start thawing?" Grace leaned back. "My guess? Someone reminded her what warmth feels like." Marcus didn't respond to that, just opened his book again. Grace smiled and stood. "Just don't break her, Reed. She's tougher than she looks, but tough and invincible aren't the same thing." She left before he could ask what she meant. October 20th arrived with the first real cold snap of the season. Marcus got the call at 6:15 in the evening, just as he was getting ready for his shift. Mrs. Chen's voice came through, strained. "Marcus, I'm so sorry. My daughter's in the hospital. Car accident. She's okay, but I need to go to Tacoma right now." Marcus's mind raced through options. No other babysitter on short notice. Lily's school friends' parents didn't know them well enough for an emergency overnight. And he couldn't miss work. Not with rent due and Lily's school supplies still unpaid. "Don't worry about it. Family first. Is your daughter really okay?" "Broken arm, concussion. They're keeping her overnight for observation." "Go. I'll figure it out." He hung up and looked at Lily, who was doing homework at the kitchen table. "Hey kiddo, how would you feel about coming to work with Dad tonight?" Lily's face lit up. "Really? I get to see the big building?" "Really, but you have to be quiet and do your homework. And stay where I can see you, Bomo." "I promise." They arrived at Sterling Tech Tower at 7:30. Tom Brennan raised an eyebrow when Marcus explained the situation but didn't object. "Keep her in the break rooms. Don't let her wander. And Reed, if Sterling sees her—" "I know, I'll handle it." Marcus set Lily up in the 40th floor break room with her homework, snacks, and strict instructions to stay put. He worked the nearby offices, checking on her every 15 minutes. She was good, quiet, focused on her math problems, occasionally looking up to wave at him through the glass. At 9:15, Victoria stepped out of her office. She stopped when she saw the child sitting in the break room. Looked at Marcus, who was cleaning the conference room next door, back at the child. Lily looked up and locked eyes with Victoria through the glass. Instead of fear, the normal reaction adults had, Lily smiled and waved. Victoria approached the break room like someone approaching a complex equation. Marcus saw her coming and moved to intercept, but Lily was already talking. "Hi, are you the scary boss my dad told Mrs. Chen about?" Victoria froze in the doorway. Marcus wanted the floor to open and swallow him. "Your dad talks about me?" Victoria's voice came out uncertain, missing its usual edge. Lily tilted her head, studying Victoria with the unfiltered directness only 8-year-olds possessed. He said you're not really scary, just sad, like he was after Mom died. The words landed like stones in still water. Victoria's carefully constructed mask cracked. She stood there, this woman who commanded boardrooms and destroyed careers, rendered speechless by a child's observation. Marcus stepped into the break room. Lily, this is Miss Sterling. She owns the building. Miss Sterling, my daughter Lily. I apologize. Babysitter emergency and it's fine. Victoria's voice came out softer than Marcus had ever heard it. She moved into the room, pulled out a chair across from Lily. What are you working on? Math, fractions. They're hard. Victoria looked at the worksheet. May I? Lily pushed the paper across. Victoria studied it, then grabbed a pencil and started explaining. Her whole demeanor transformed. Patient, clear, even gentle. She drew diagrams, used examples, made the concepts simple. Lily's face brightened. Oh, I get it now. You're smart. You were just approaching it from the wrong angle. My mom used to help me with homework. She was really good at explaining things too. Victoria's hand paused over the paper. Your mom? She's not. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. Lily said it matter-of-factly, the way children do when they have been living with grief long enough for it to become familiar. I don't remember her as much as I used to. Dad says that's okay. Says she's still part of our family even if I can't see her. Victoria looked at Marcus. Something passed between them. Understanding maybe. Recognition of different kinds of loss. Your dad's right. Victoria returned her attention to Lily. People we love don't disappear just because they're gone. They live in how they changed us. Lily considered this seriously. Then, you're pretty when you smile. You should do it more. Victoria blinked. Marcus saw the exact moment her defenses tried to reassemble and failed. A real smile broke through, small but genuine. Thank you, that's very kind. They worked on homework for another 20 minutes. Marcus pretended to clean the same conference room 3 times, watching through the glass as Victoria Sterling, the ice queen of tech, helped his daughter with fractions and actually laughed when Lily told a terrible knock-knock joke. Eventually, Victoria stood to leave. She paused at the door. Lily, it was nice meeting you. You too. Maybe you can come to our apartment sometime. Dad makes really good spaghetti. Victoria's eyes met Marcus's over Lily's head. Something electrical passed between them. Maybe. Victoria's voice came out careful. Maybe I will. After she left, Lily looked at Marcus with those two perceptive eyes. I like her, Dad. She's sad like you used to be, but I think she's getting better. Like you are. Marcus knelt beside his daughter's chair. What makes you think I'm getting better? You smile more now, and you don't stare at Mom's picture as long. That's good, right? Mom wouldn't want you to be crying forever. Marcus pulled her close. You're too smart for 8 years old. You know that? I know. She hugged him back. Can we come back tomorrow night? No, kiddo. This was a one-time thing. But as Marcus finished his shift that night, he couldn't stop thinking about Victoria's face when Lily said she was sad. The recognition in her eyes, the smile that broke through. 2 days later, Victoria's assistant sent Marcus a message through the building's internal system. Ms. Sterling requests your presence in the executive break room at 12:45 tomorrow, if you're available. Marcus stared at the message. 12:45 was exactly when he took his lunch break. She'd checked his schedule. He arrived at 12:44 the next afternoon. Victoria was already there, 2 cups of coffee on the table. Not from the executive floor machine, from the good cafe on the ground level. She'd gone downstairs herself. Mr. Reed, thank you for coming. Marcus is fine. Then Victoria. She gestured to the chair across from her. Please. He sat, accepted the coffee. They didn't speak for a moment, both aware this wasn't a casual encounter. Victoria broke the silence. Your daughter is remarkable. She is. Gets that from her mother. She gets plenty from you too. The honesty, the kindness. Victoria wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I've been thinking about what she said. That I'm sad. Children see things adults spend years hiding. They do. Am I that obvious? Marcus considered his answer. You're obvious to people who've been where you are. I recognize the walls because I built the same ones. Victoria's defenses tried to activate. He could see it in the stiffening of her shoulders. Then she deliberately relaxed them. Tell me about her, your wife. So Marcus did. He told her about Sarah. Infectious laugh, terrible sense of direction, could fix anything mechanical. How they met at a Navy-based charity event. How she followed him through 3 deployments, never complaining. How she got sick 6 months after Lily was born, and they spent the next 18 months fighting a battle they couldn't win. The last thing she made me promise was that I'd live, not just survive. His coffee had gone cold. I broke that promise for 3 years. Just went through motions, woke up, took care of Lily, worked, slept, repeat, never really there. What changed? I met someone who needed to hear the same thing I needed to hear. That fear doesn't protect us. It just makes us smaller while we wait for bad things to happen. Victoria's eyes met his. Held. You're talking about me. I'm talking about both of us. The air between them shifted, charged. Their coffee cups sat forgotten. The break room felt suddenly smaller, more intimate. Victoria leaned forward slightly. Marcus didn't pull back. Their hands rested on the table, inches apart. I don't know how to do this. Her voice came out quiet, vulnerable. Connect with people. It's been so long. Neither do I. Guess we figure it out together. The moment stretched. Marcus became aware of small details. The way afternoon light caught her hair, the tiny scar above her left eyebrow, the pulse visible at her throat. She wasn't the ice queen now, just a woman, uncertain and hoping. Then her phone buzzed. The spell broke. She checked it, and her entire body went rigid. I have to go. Meeting I'd forgotten about. She stood, movements jerky. Thank you for the conversation. She left before Marcus could respond, but he'd seen the phone screen, seen the name of the person requesting the meeting. David Mercer. Victoria stood in her office 30 minutes later, preparing for a meeting she dreaded since her assistant scheduled it 2 weeks ago. David Mercer, the ghost of her past materializing in corporate flesh. He arrived exactly on time, flanked by 2 associates. Still handsome at 37, that easy charm that once fooled her into thinking charm meant character. He'd aged well, expensive suit, confident stride, the bearing of someone who'd never paid real consequences for his sins. Vicky, he smiled like they were old friends. You look incredible. Success suits you. Victoria didn't invite him to sit. It's Victoria, and you have 15 minutes. David's smile didn't falter. He gestured to his associates, who spread financial documents across her conference table. I'll get straight to it. Mercer Technologies is interested in acquiring Sterling Tech. We're prepared to offer $2.3 billion, cash and stock combination. The number hung in the air, more than her company was worth by most valuations. But Victoria understood what he wasn't saying. He'd been manipulating her stock price down for months, creating artificial devaluation to make his offer seem generous. My company isn't for sale. Everything's for sale at the right price. Look at the numbers. Your growth is stagnating. Competition's intensifying. This is your best exit. Victoria remained standing. I built this company from nothing. While you were selling my work to the highest bidder, I was rebuilding. This isn't about money. David's mask slipped slightly. Still bitter about that? Vicky, that was 12 years ago. Business is business. I made a strategic decision. You stole my algorithms. You betrayed my trust. You left me with nothing. And look what you did with nothing. He spread his hands. I made you stronger. You should thank me. The words hit like acid. Victoria felt her control slipping, the rage she'd buried for over a decade threatening to surface. Get out. Be smart about this. You're good, but you're alone. No strategic partnerships, no board support for expansion. You've built walls so high you've isolated yourself into irrelevance. I said get out. David stood, collected his documents. At the door, he paused. You have 1 week to consider the offer. After that, we move to hostile acquisition. Your shareholders will get the same offer, but you won't get a seat at the table. Your choice? Sell now with dignity or lose it all later with headlines. He left. His associates followed. Victoria stood alone in her conference room, trembling with suppressed fury and something worse, fear. Because David was right about one thing. She'd isolated herself, built an empire with no allies, no support structure. Just her, lone at the top, vulnerable to exactly this kind of attack. She needed air, needed space, needed... Marcus found her 20 minutes later in the emergency stairwell between floors 39 and 40. She was sitting on the steps, head in her hands, the perfect composure completely shattered. He sat beside her without asking, just present, solid. I saw him arrive. Marcus kept his voice low. The guy from your past? Victoria nodded, couldn't speak yet. You want to talk about it? The words came out broken, angry, terrified. He's trying to take everything. Again, hostile takeover. He's been manipulating my stock, positioning shareholders, and I didn't see it because I was too busy building walls. What does he want? My company, or my humiliation? Maybe both. She looked at Marcus, eyes raw. I was 22 and stupid. I loved him, trusted him with my work, my future. He took it all and made me believe I was nothing without him. Then he proved I was nothing to him. Marcus didn't offer platitudes, didn't tell her it would be okay. Instead, what are you going to do? I don't know. I don't have allies, don't have support. Spent 12 years making sure no one got close enough to help because no one could get close enough to hurt me. She laughed bitterly. Turns out isolation isn't strength. It's just loneliness with a better marketing strategy. Marcus took her hand. The gesture was simple, but Victoria felt it like electric current. You're not alone. Not anymore. I'm your boss. You're my employee. What could you possibly... I'm someone who sees you. The real you, not the armor. And I'm telling you, that person is worth fighting for. Victoria's throat tightened. When was the last time someone fought for her instead of just with her? I don't know if I remember how to fight without burning everything down. Then maybe it's time to learn a different way. They sat in the stairwell, hands clasped, both of them damaged and scared, and beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, broken pieces could fit together into something stronger than either whole. The building's emergency alarm shattered the moment. Loud, piercing, urgent. Then the lights died. Complete blackout. 42 floors plunged into darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in after 3 seconds. Harsh fluorescent reality showing Victoria and Marcus frozen on the stairs. What's happening? Victoria pulled out her phone. No signal. The building's cellular boosters had died with the main power. Below them, voices rose in confusion. Fear, the beginnings of panic. Marcus stood, pulling Victoria up with him. Power failure. Probably affects the whole building. We need to get to the lobby. Help with evacuation. They descended through semi-darkness. Each floor more chaotic than the last. People crowding the stairwells, pushing, shoving. Someone screamed about fire. There was no fire, just fear creating its own reality. The crowd surged. Victoria stumbled. Marcus caught her, pulled her against the wall as the mass of bodies pushed past. This is getting dangerous. His voice had changed. No longer the gentle janitor. This was someone else, someone who'd led people through worse situations. Stay close to me. They reached the 33rd floor landing. The crowd had become a mob, panic spreading like virus. People trampling each other, a woman crying, a man shouting about being stuck, trapped, going to die here. Marcus stepped into the center of the landing. Everyone stop moving! The command cut through chaos. Navy voice, officer voice. The kind of voice that expected immediate obedience and usually got it. People froze. There is no fire. This is a power outage. We're going to move down slowly and safely. No pushing, no running, single file. I'll lead. Anyone injured or unable to walk, identify yourself now. A pregnant woman raised her hand, an older man with a cane. Marcus organized it efficiently, able-bodied people assisting those who needed help, maintaining spacing, keeping pace steady. He led them down floor by floor, his flashlight from his maintenance belt illuminating the way. Victoria followed, watching him transform into someone she hadn't seen before. This wasn't the quiet janitor who cleaned floors. This was a leader, calm, competent, exactly who you'd want in a crisis. They reached the lobby. Emergency crews were arriving, but the building's backup systems had failed. The server room, where millions of dollars of client data lived, was on emergency battery power that would last maybe 90 minutes before critical failures started cascading. Victoria found her head of eyed in the chaos. Robert, status. Robert's face was pale. Backup generators aren't engaging. Main power's down citywide. Car accident took out a transformer station. We could lose everything. Everything? 15 million in client data. 3 years of research. If those servers go down hard. Marcus appeared beside them. Where are the generators? Robert blinked. Third floor, mechanical room. But they're supposed to engage automatically. If they're not, I need access. You're a janitor. Marcus looked at Victoria. She saw it in his eyes, a question. Trust me, she didn't hesitate. Give him access. But now, Robert. Marcus disappeared into the dark building with Robert's access card and his flashlight. Victoria stood in the lobby, surrounded by evacuating employees, and realized she'd just bet everything on a man she barely knew. Grace Martinez appeared beside him. You sent Reed into a dark building with failing systems? Yes. You trust him? Yes. Grace nodded slowly. Good. Because if anyone can fix this, it's him. 23 minutes passed like hours. Victoria's phone buzzed. Battery backup in the server room was at 15%. Critical failure in 7 minutes. Then the building shuddered. Deep mechanical sound, like a giant waking up. The backup generators roared to life. Emergency lights strengthened. The server room techs let out a collective cheer visible through the lobby windows. Crisis averted. Marcus emerged from the service elevator 10 minutes later. His uniform was streaked with grease and sweat. He looked exhausted and completely calm. Victoria met him halfway across the lobby. You did it. Generators weren't broken, just needed manual override. Someone had installed the autofail system wrong. Wiring was backwards. You knew how to fix it? Used to work on carrier electrical systems. Ship generators are more complex than building ones. Just needed to remember which switches went where. Grace was right behind Victoria. Warrant officer, engineering technician. You're not just a janitor. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag. I'm whatever needs doing. Tonight that meant fixing generators. Victoria stared at him. Really saw him. You just saved $15 million worth of data. You prevented potential disaster. You led evacuation of hundreds of people. Her voice cracked slightly. Why are you cleaning buildings? Marcus met her eyes. Because Lily needed me home during the day. Because after Sarah died, I needed simple. Needed something I could control. Needed to not be responsible for anything that mattered too much. He paused. But maybe I'm ready for more now. Maybe simple isn't enough anymore. The lobby had mostly cleared, just emergency personnel, a few staff members, and the two of them standing in the harsh emergency lighting. Victoria closed the distance between them. Thank you for saving my company. For everything. You'd have figured it out. No, I wouldn't have. I'd have watched it burn and convinced myself I deserved it. Marcus's hand came up, hesitated, then gently touched her face. You don't deserve to burn. You deserve to build, really build, with people who have your back. Victoria leaned into the touch. Will you have my back? Already do. The moment stretched between them, charged, significant, balanced on the edge of something neither was quite ready to name. Grace's voice shattered it. Hate to interrupt, but the power company says they need statements. Both of you. They separated, but something had shifted permanently. Victoria felt it in her chest, warmth where cold had lived for 12 years. As emergency crews wrapped up and employees headed home, Victoria found Marcus by the building entrance. He was getting ready to leave. Overnight shift canceled due to the emergency. Marcus? He turned. Tomorrow. Can we talk about everything? David's offer, the company, this. She gestured between them, unable to name it yet. Marcus nodded. Yeah, we can talk. Your place or mine? The question hung there, loaded with implications neither acknowledged yet. Mine. Lily should probably be there. She's part of this too. Victoria smiled, a real smile, the kind Lily said she should do more often. I'd like that, meeting her properly, seeing your life. It's not 40 floors up, not impressive. I've had impressive. It's overrated. Marcus left. Victoria stood in the lobby as the building slowly came back to life around her. Power restored, systems rebooting, everything returning to normal, except her. She was fundamentally changed, and for the first time in 12 years, that didn't terrify her. It felt like possibility. Part 2, complete, 5,947 words. Victoria arrived at Marcus's apartment building on a Saturday afternoon carrying uncertainty and a bottle of wine she'd spent 20 minutes selecting. Capitol Hill neighborhood, modest three-story structure with fading paint and a front entrance that needed WD-40, the exact opposite of her penthouse in Belltown. She climbed to the second floor. Unit 2C knocked before her courage failed. Marcus opened the door in jeans and a flannel shirt. Casual clothes transformed him, softer around the edges, more approachable. You came. I said I would. People say a lot of things. Victoria stepped inside. The apartment hit her with its ordinariness, small but immaculately clean. Furniture that had seen better decades. Lily's artwork covering every available surface. A life built from modest means and enormous love. The kind of home Victoria's penthouse would never be, despite costing 50 times more. Lily appeared from what must be her bedroom, suspicious eyes evaluating Victoria. You're the lady from Dad's work. I am. Thank you for letting me visit. I didn't let you. Dad did. Lily crossed her arms. The gesture was pure 8-year-old defiance masking something deeper. Fear, maybe. Are you staying for dinner? Marcus intervened smoothly. Lily, why don't you show Ms. Sterling your room? I need to finish the sauce. Lily led Victoria down the short hallway without enthusiasm. Her room exploded with color, drawings taped to walls, a bookshelf overflowing, a desk covered in art supplies. But Victoria's attention caught on the bulletin board above the bed. Dozens of photos of a blonde woman. Lily's mother, obviously. Smiling, laughing, alive in frozen moments. That's my mom. Lily's voice carried challenge. She died when I was 5, but she's still part of our family. Your dad told me, I'm sorry. Everyone says sorry, like it helps. But Lily picked up a photo from her nightstand, the three of them together. Lily as a baby. Dad cried every day for a year. Sometimes I heard him at night. He tried to be quiet, but I knew. Victoria knelt to Lily's eye level and that must have been scary. It was. I thought he'd disappear too, like maybe being too sad makes you die. Lily set the photo down carefully. He's not sad like that anymore. He smiles, real smiles now, not pretend ones. That's good. It is good. But, Lily's voice dropped to a whisper, what if he forgets Mom? What if you make him forget? The question cut deeper than any boardroom attack. Victoria saw the real fear now. Not that Victoria would hurt Marcus, but that she'd erase Sarah, replace the mother Lily barely remembered. Victoria chose her words carefully. I could never make him forget your mom. She's part of who he is, part of who you are. I'm not trying to replace anyone. I'm just trying to know him and you, if that's okay. Lily studied her with those two perceptive eyes. Do you like my dad? I do, very much. Like him? Victoria almost smiled. Yes, like him. He likes you too, I can tell. He gets all weird when your name comes up. Mrs. Chen says he's smitten. That's an old person word for having a crush. Mrs. Chen sounds very observant. She's old. Old people notice stuff. Lily picked at her bedspread. If Dad likes you, does that mean you'll get married and I'll have a new mom? Whoa, we're not. That's way ahead of where we are. Victoria sat on the floor, making herself smaller, less threatening. Right now, we're just friends. Friends who might become more than friends. But that takes time, and it only happens if everyone's comfortable, including you. What if I'm not comfortable? Victoria respected the honesty. Then we slow down, or we stop. Your dad loves you more than anything in the world. He wouldn't do something that hurt you. Lily processed this. Finally, okay, you can stay for dinner, but I'm watching you. They ate spaghetti at a small table meant for two, crowded with three. Marcus had made garlic bread that actually rivaled anything Victoria's favorite Italian restaurant served. Lily maintained her watchful silence through most of the meal, evaluating every interaction between Marcus and Victoria. After dinner, Lily reluctantly went to finish homework. Marcus and Victoria moved to the small living room, settling on a couch that had probably been nice in 1995. She's protective. Victoria kept her voice low. I understand why. She's scared, lost her mom, thinks if she's not careful, she'll lose me too. Or I'll forget Sarah. Kid logic doesn't follow adult rules. She's afraid I'll erase Sarah's memory. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's complicated for me too. I love Sarah, still love her, in the way you love someone who shaped your life. But she's gone, and I'm still here. At some point, survival has to become living. Do you feel guilty for wanting to move forward? The question landed in tender territory. Marcus stared at his hands. Every damn day, Sarah made me promise I'd live, but actually doing it feels like betrayal, like I'm choosing happiness over her memory. Victoria reached for his hand. She wanted you to be happy. That's not betrayal. That's honoring her love by not wasting the life she fought to give you more of. Logically, I know that. Emotionally, Marcus shook his head. Emotions don't respond to logic. They sat in silence, hands clasped, both carrying ghosts. Victoria spoke first. I need to tell you something about David's offer. Okay. He's not just trying to buy my company. He's orchestrating a hostile takeover. Been manipulating stock prices for months, positioning shareholders, building leverage. Her voice cracked slightly. I didn't see it because I was too busy hiding behind walls. Now I'm vulnerable and he knows it. What's the timeline? He gave me a week to accept his offer. That was 2 days ago. If I refuse, he goes directly to shareholders with the same offer plus promises of better leadership. My board is not loyal. They'll side with whoever protects their interests. Marcus processed this. So you need to prove you're the better option. How? I've spent 12 years alienating everyone. I have no allies, no strategic partners, just an empire built on fear that's about to crumble. You have me. Victoria's laugh came out bitter. You're a janitor. No offense. But what leverage does that give me? Marcus's expression hardened. I'm a warrant officer who understands complex systems. I'm someone who led 300 sailors during combat deployments. I'm a man who rebuilt his life from nothing when everything fell apart. His voice intensified. And I'm someone who sees solutions where you see obstacles. So yeah, you have me. Question is whether you're ready to actually let someone help. The words struck home. Victoria realized her mistake. She'd fallen back into olden patterns, dismissing help because accepting it meant admitting vulnerability. I'm sorry, that was true. You're terrified of needing anyone. I get it, but you can't win this fight alone. Sarah used to tell me, pride is just fear wearing a fancy suit. Your pride is going to cost you everything you built. Victoria pulled her hand back. So what's your solution? We just, what? Trust each other and hope it works out? We start by being honest about what you're up against, about what resources you actually have, about who your real allies are. Marcus leaned forward. Grace has law enforcement connections. Robert knows your systems better than anyone. Tom knows every contractor who's worked on this building for 20 years. Those are relationships. And you have me. I might not have a business degree, but I understand strategy. And I understand David's type. I've served under officers like him, guys who mistake manipulation for leadership. This is corporate warfare, not military. Same principles. Know your enemy, know your assets, know your objective, then execute. Marcus pulled out his phone, opened notes. Let's start with basics. Who on your board is absolutely loyal? No one. Then who's persuadable? Victoria thought. Eleanor Ross. She's been with me since Series B funding. Doesn't love me, but respects the work. Good. Who else? They spent 2 hours mapping out Victoria's position, asset inventory, board member profiles, shareholder sentiment analysis. Marcus approached it like a military operation, methodical, thorough, strategic. And Victoria realized he was right. Same principles, different battlefield. By midnight, they had the skeleton of a defense strategy. Not perfect, but viable. Victoria felt something she hadn't in days: hope. As she prepared to leave, Marcus walked her to the door. They stood in the narrow hallway, close enough to feel each other's warmth. "Thank you for tonight, for helping, for not giving up on me when I was being impossible." "You weren't impossible, just scared." "Same thing sometimes." Marcus tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was intimate, careful. "Can I ask you something? Anything. What happens after? If we beat David, save your company, what happens with us?" Victoria's breath caught. "I don't know. I want there to be an us, but I'm still figuring out how to be myself, let alone part of something. We figure it out together, like everything else." He kissed her, soft, tentative, a question more than a statement. Victoria answered by pulling him closer, letting herself feel wanted, cared for, seen. The kiss deepened, months of tension and denial and careful distance evaporating into heat and need and possibility. They broke apart, breathing hard. "I should go." Victoria's voice came out unsteady. "You should." Neither moved. Finally, Victoria forced herself toward the door. "Monday, we start fighting back?" "Monday, we start fighting back." She left carrying the taste of him, the hope of possibility, and the terrifying knowledge that she was falling for someone in the most inconvenient moment of her life. Sunday passed in planning. Marcus met with Grace, who connected him with a corporate attorney she'd worked with during fraud investigations. The attorney, Patricia Vasquez, reviewed David's position and confirmed what they'd suspected: legally sound, morally bankrupt, and devastatingly effective. "He's been planning this for months." Patricia spread documents across her desk. Stock price manipulation, strategic shorting, coordinated shareholder outreach. By the time Victoria noticed, she was already cornered. Marcus studied the papers. What's her best counterattack? Prove she's a better long-term investment than David. Show growth potential. Demonstrate leadership. Rebuild board confidence. Patricia leaned back. Basically, undo 12 years of isolation in 1 week. Should be simple. Marcus called Victoria with the news. Her voice came through, strained. "So we need a miracle. We need a story. David's selling fear of stagnation. We sell vision of growth. Show them you're not the ice queen anymore. Show them you're a leader who's learned to build teams, not walls." In 5 days. In 5 days. Monday morning, Victoria did something unprecedented. Called an all-staff meeting. Not just executives. Everyone. 700 employees gathered in the building's ground floor atrium, confused and nervous. Victoria stood on the raised platform usually reserved for holiday parties. No podium, no prepared remarks, just her and a microphone and 700 people who'd learned to fear her. 3 months ago, a janitor told me I was leading through fear instead of trust. I dismissed it. Then I thought about it. Then I realized he was right. Her voice carried clearly through the space. "I've spent 12 years building this company on control and intimidation. That ends today." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Robert Chen stood near the front, eyes wide. "I'm not here to apologize. Apologies are easy. Change is hard. But I'm committing to change. Open door policies, regular feedback sessions, leadership training. Because I've learned something. Fear might build empires, but trust builds something that lasts." She paused, letting that sink in. "David Mercer is trying to acquire this company. Some of you remember him. He left 12 years ago after stealing my work. Now he's back, promising better leadership, better culture. He's right about one thing. You deserve better leadership. But he's wrong about who should provide it. I'm not perfect, but I'm here. I'm committed. And I'm asking you to give me the chance to prove that growth is possible, even for people who've been frozen for a long time." She stepped down. No fanfare, no questions. Just 700 people processing the impossibility of Victoria Sterling admitting vulnerability. Marcus watched from the back. Grace stood beside him. She's doing it. Actually doing it. Doing what? Trusting. Letting people in. Being human. Grace smiled. You're good for her. She's good for herself. I just reminded her how. The week accelerated. Victoria met with board members individually, presented growth projections, shared the leadership changes, slowly, carefully, rebuilt bridges she'd burned with neglect. Eleanor Ross was skeptical. You're asking us to believe a fundamental personality change happened in 3 months? I'm asking you to believe that people can grow, that self-awareness has value, that a leader who admits mistakes is stronger than one who pretends perfection. And if I'm not convinced, then David wins, and you get a CEO who's charming and manipulative and will gut this company for parts within 2 years. Victoria met Eleanor's eyes. Your choice. The devil you know who's learning to be better, or the devil you knew who never changed at all. Eleanor's face remained neutral. I'll consider it. 3 days before the shareholder meeting, Marcus came home to find Lily crying in her room. He sat on her bed, pulling her close. What's wrong, sweetheart? I hate you. The words exploded out, followed by heaving sobs. You're trying to replace Mom. You're forgetting her. Marcus's chest constricted. I'm not forgetting Mom. I could never. Yes, you are. You smile at Victoria. You look happy. You never looked happy with Mom. The accusation cut deep because it held truth. Marcus had been happy with Sarah, but the last 18 months, watching her die, caring for her, saying goodbye, had overshadowed the joy with pain. His memories were colored by loss. Lily, look at me. He waited until she met his eyes. I was very happy with your mom. We had 6 beautiful years before she got sick. But the last year and a half was hard, really hard. And that's what I remember most clearly because trauma burns deeper than joy. But you're forgetting the good parts. I'm not forgetting. I'm just making room for new good parts. That doesn't erase the old ones. Lily pushed away from him. I don't want new good parts. I want Mom back. I know, baby. I want her back too. Then why are you with Victoria? Marcus took a breath. This was the conversation he'd been dreading. Because Mom's not coming back. And I can choose to stay frozen in grief forever, or I can honor her by living. She made me promise to live. Do you remember what she used to say? Don't waste the time you have being afraid of the time you don't have. But I'm forgetting her face. I can't remember what she smelled like, and if you get a new person, I'll forget everything. You won't forget. I won't let you forget. Victoria isn't replacing Mom. She's a different thing, a new thing. But Mom is always your mom. Always. Lily cried harder. Marcus held her, letting the grief pour out, hers and his own. Because she was right. They were forgetting. And that hurt more than any boardroom betrayal. After she cried herself out, Lily whispered, Do you really like Victoria? I do. More than Mom. Not more, different. You don't measure love like that. It's not a competition. Your mom owns a huge part of my heart. She always will. But I'm learning there's room for more. Lily was quiet for a long time. Then, okay, but if Victoria ever says bad stuff about Mom, I'm kicking her out. Marcus smiled despite everything. Deal. The shareholder meeting was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Emergency session called by David's team under provisions in Sterling Tech's charter. Victoria spent Wednesday night preparing, but by midnight, she was pacing her penthouse, too anxious to focus. Marcus showed up at 12:30 with coffee and quiet presence. Couldn't sleep either. Keep running through scenarios. 80% of them end with David winning. What about the other 20%? Require miracles. Marcus handed her coffee. Good thing I believe in those. They stood at her floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at Seattle sleeping below them. Victoria's penthouse occupied the top 2 floors of a Belltown high-rise. Expensive, modern, aggressively empty of personality. This place doesn't look like you. Victoria glanced around. It looks exactly like me. Cold, expensive, impressive from distance but hollow up close. That's not who you are. It's who I've been. Past tense, important distinction. Marcus pulled her away from the window, made her sit on the minimalist couch. Listen to me. Tomorrow you walk into that meeting and you tell your story, not David's version, yours. You tell them about building from nothing, about learning from mistakes, about being strong enough to change. What if they don't believe me? Then they're idiots. But I don't think they're idiots. I think they're scared investors who want assurance. So give them assurance, not through control, through vision. Victoria leaned against him. His arm came around her shoulders, solid and warm and exactly what she needed. How did a Navy engineer become this wise? Watch my wife die over 18 months. Either you learn from that kind of pain or you let it destroy you. I chose learning. They fell asleep on her couch, tangled together, both too exhausted for anything but rest and presence. Thursday morning arrived cold and decisive. Victoria dressed in navy blue instead of her usual black. Grace's suggestion, something about appearing less severe, she stared at her reflection and saw a woman transformed, still strong, still professional, but softer around the edges. Human. The meeting convened at 2. Sterling Tech's boardroom, 23rd floor, glass walls overlooking Elliott Bay. 15 board members, 20 major shareholders. David Mercer and his team. Media in the back, since David had made this public. And Marcus, standing against the back wall with Grace. He shouldn't be there, wasn't invited, had no official role. But Victoria had insisted. He was her anchor. David presented first. Slick PowerPoint, financial projections, promises of dynamic leadership and cultural transformation. He made it sound reasonable, inevitable. Made Victoria sound like a relic of failed philosophy. Sterling Tech has stagnated under current leadership. 0.3% growth last quarter. High employee turnover. Market share declining. David clicked to a slide showing Victoria's photo labeled Authoritarian Management Style. Ms. Sterling built this company on fear and control. That worked for a while, but the world's changed. Companies need leaders who inspire, not intimidate. He talked for 40 minutes. By the end, half the room looked convinced. Then Victoria stood. No slides, no props, just her and the truth. David's right about one thing. I built this company on fear. 12 years ago, he betrayed me, stole my work, left me with nothing, and I swore I'd never be vulnerable again. So I built walls, made people afraid to disappoint me, created an empire where I was safe because everyone was scared. She paused, letting them absorb that. But 3 months ago, someone challenged me. A man who worked here, who saw what I was doing and had the courage to tell me I was wrong. Not because he wanted something, not because he was playing politics, because it needed saying. Victoria turned toward Marcus. That man is here today. Marcus Reed. Most of you don't know him. He works night shift maintenance. Former Navy warrant officer, engineering specialist, single father, and the bravest person I've ever met. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Grace elbowed him to stay still. During the October power failure, while we all panicked, Marcus led the evacuation. Then he fixed the backup generators manually. Saved $15 million in data. Why isn't he an executive here? Because he chose his daughter over ambition. Chose presence over promotion. Chose what mattered over what impressed. Murmurs around the room. David's smirk faded. Marcus taught me something. Real strength isn't control. It's vulnerability, admitting mistakes, learning, growing, being strong enough to change. Victoria's voice intensified. So yes, I have been a terrible leader. Authoritarian, cold, isolated, and I'm changing. 3 months isn't much time, but it's enough to prove that growth is possible. She clicked a remote. Her own slide appeared. Employee satisfaction metrics, up 43% in 3 months. Retention up 60%. Productivity up 28%. These are the results of 3 months of trying to be better, of implementing open policies, of treating people like humans instead of machinery. Imagine what a year looks like. 5 years. Another slide, growth projections based on the new culture. Conservative estimates showed 7% growth next quarter. Aggressive but realistic models showed 14%. David will tell you he's a better leader. Maybe he is. He's certainly more charming. But charm isn't character. 12 years ago, he chose profit over partnership. Over me. What makes you think he won't do the same to you? She closed the laptop, faced them without barriers. I'm not perfect, but I'm here, I'm committed, I'm learning. And I'm asking you to give me the chance to prove that even people who've been frozen can thaw. Silence filled the room. Then Eleanor Ross spoke. This is quite a transformation, Victoria. But forgive my skepticism. How do we know this isn't just performance art? Temporary change to prevent a takeover? Before Victoria could answer, Marcus stepped forward. He shouldn't speak. Wasn't on the agenda. Didn't have standing. He spoke anyway, because I've watched her change. Not for cameras, not for strategy, for herself. I've seen her cry about mistakes, seen her stay up until 3 a.m. learning how to apologize effectively, seen her rebuilding relationships she burned because it's the right thing to do. He moved closer to the table. You want to know if this is real? Ask her employees, they'll tell you. Ask the junior analyst who came to open office hours expecting to get fired and instead got promoted. Ask Robert Chen, who's still employed despite screwing up in front of everyone. Ask the 700 people who showed up to an all-staff meeting expecting humiliation and got vulnerability instead. Marcus stopped directly across from David. Or ask me, someone who has no reason to lie, no stock options, no career advancement, just someone who sees her trying, really trying to be better and succeeding. David stood. This is highly irregular. This man has no place in these proceedings. This man saved your company when your infrastructure failed. Grace stepped forward too. This man is a decorated veteran with 10 years of leadership experience. And this man represents exactly what Sterling Tech could be. Talented people given a chance, regardless of titles or pretense. The room erupted, board members arguing, shareholders demanding order. David's team trying to regain control. Victoria watched it all, feeling curiously calm. She'd done everything she could, said the truth, exposed herself completely. Now it was out of her hands. The board chair, Harrison Mitchell, called for order. We'll vote, simple majority, retain current leadership or accept Mercer's offer. Papers distributed, votes cast. 5 minutes that felt like 5 hours. Harrison counted. His face remained neutral. Then he looked up. 10 votes to retain current leadership. 5 votes to sell. Victoria's knees nearly gave out. She'd won. Not overwhelmingly, but enough. David stood, fury radiating. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. Grace moved to block his path to Victoria. Take your offer and leave. Gracefully. David looked at Victoria. You think one Navy janitor makes you invincible? You think vulnerability is strength? You're delusional. Marcus stepped between them. No, she's brave. There's a difference, and you wouldn't recognize it because you've spent your whole life confusing manipulation with power. David left. His team followed, trailing litigation threats and wounded pride. The room cleared slowly. Board members congratulating Victoria with varying degrees of sincerity. Shareholders adjusting positions. Media asking for statements. Finally, just Victoria, Marcus, and Grace remained. Grace spoke first. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen. Can't decide which. Both. Victoria sank into a chair, adrenaline fading into exhaustion. Definitely both. Marcus sat beside her. You did it. We did it. Semantics. Victoria turned to face him. I need to say something. Publicly. And I need you to be okay with it. What? She stood, walked to the windows overlooking the bay. I'm holding a press conference tomorrow about the restructuring, about the future, and I'm telling them about you, about us, about everything. Marcus joined her at the window. That'll cause problems, CEO and maintenance worker. The media will let them. I'm done hiding, done pretending I'm invulnerable. You showed me that strength isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. Victoria, I'm falling in love with you, maybe already have fallen, and I'm tired of treating that like something to hide. So tomorrow I'm telling the truth. She faced him directly. Unless you're not ready, unless this is too much too fast. Marcus cupped her face in his hands. I watched my wife die. Spent 3 years convinced I'd never feel anything again. Then you walked into my life, this impossible, brilliant, damaged woman who needed someone to see past her armor, and I fell hard. So yeah, I'm ready. They kissed, longer this time, deeper, the kind of kiss that promises futures instead of just moments. Grace cleared her throat from across the room. You two realize I'm still here. They broke apart, laughing. The press conference happened Friday morning. Media packed Sterling Tech's first-floor auditorium. Victoria stood at the podium, Marcus and Grace flanking her like unlikely bodyguards. She told the story, all of it. The betrayal 12 years ago, the walls she'd built, the fear-based leadership, Marcus's intervention, the transformation, the blackout, the shareholder battle. When she got to Marcus, cameras swiveled toward him. 3 months ago, Marcus Reed, a night shift janitor, told me I was wrong, said I was leading through fear instead of trust. I nearly fired him. Instead, I listened, and he changed everything. She detailed his background, Navy service, technical expertise, single fatherhood, the choice to work nights rather than pursue advancement. Marcus isn't just someone who cleans buildings. He's a leader, an engineer, a father, and someone who reminded me that titles don't define competence. Character does. The question came inevitably. Miss Sterling, are you in a relationship with Mr. Reed? Victoria didn't hesitate. Yes, we've been seeing each other for about a month. And before anyone asks, no, that didn't influence the shareholder vote. It didn't influence anything except reminding me that connection is possible, that love is possible, even for people who thought they'd close that door permanently. The room exploded with questions. Victoria answered some, deflected others. Throughout it all, Marcus stood steady beside her. Afterward, in her office, Victoria collapsed on her couch. That either destroyed my reputation or redefined it. Marcus sat beside her. Time will tell. Are you okay with this? Being public? Lily's going to have questions. Lots of questions. But yeah, I'm okay with it. And us? Are we okay? Marcus pulled her close. We're better than okay. 2 months passed. The media storm eventually calmed. Sterling Tech stock actually rose. Investors liked the authenticity angle. Victoria's leadership transformation continued, slower than headlines suggested, but real and measurable. Marcus turned down 3 executive offers from other companies. Stayed as night maintenance because, as he explained to a baffled Victoria, I like the work, like the hours, like being there when Lily wakes up. But Sterling Tech quietly doubled his salary and created a consulting role, infrastructure systems advisor. Marcus worked nights, consulted days, and somehow made it work. Lily adjusted, slowly. She'd never completely embraced Victoria replacing Sarah, but she stopped seeing it as replacement, started seeing it as addition, family growing instead of changing. December arrived with Seattle's typical gray rain. Victoria left work early one Friday, a thing she'd never done before Marcus, and drove to Capitol Hill. She knocked on apartment 2C. Marcus answered, Lily peering around his legs. You're early. Marcus stepped aside to let her in. I'm learning flexibility. Grace says it's good for me. Lily tugged Victoria's hand. We're making cookies. Mom's recipe. Want to help? The casual mention of Sarah no longer carried tension. Just acknowledgement. Victoria smiled. I'd love to. They spent the evening in the small kitchen, flour everywhere, Lily's giggles, Marcus's off-key singing to Christmas music, the kind of ordinary domestic chaos Victoria's penthouse had never known. Later, after Lily went to bed, Marcus and Victoria sat on the old couch. I've been thinking. Marcus traced patterns on her hand, about future plans. Oh? Lily needs stability, needs to know this is permanent. So I need to know, are we permanent? Victoria's heart rate accelerated. That sounds like a leading question. It is. Marcus shifted to face her. I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet, but I'm asking if you see that possibility. Because if you don't, I need to protect Lily from getting too attached. Victoria considered the question seriously. 6 months ago, she would have laughed at the impossibility. Now, I see it, the possibility, more than possibility. She squeezed his hand. I'm terrified of it, of trusting someone that much. But yes, I see it. Marcus kissed her softly. Good, because Lily's already picking out bridesmaid dresses in her head. She told you that? She tells Mrs. Chen everything. Mrs. Chen tells me. They sat in comfortable silence, rain pattering against windows, the city alive around them. Victoria thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, frozen, alone, convinced control was the only path to safety. That woman felt like a stranger now. She'd learned what Marcus already knew. Walls might protect you from pain, but they also block you from joy. And joy, messy, scary, vulnerable joy, was worth the risk. Marcus spoke into the quiet. What are you thinking? That I'm happy, actually happy, for the first time in 12 years. Good. He pulled her closer. Because you deserve happy, deserve to be someone's priority, deserve to be loved for who you are, not what you've built. Victoria settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Steady, reliable, real. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning, Victoria woke in Marcus's bed. She'd been sleeping over more often, though she maintained her penthouse for appearances. Lily appeared in the doorway, already dressed. Dad says we're going to the Space Needle. You coming? Victoria looked at Marcus, who was still half asleep. I have work. Work can wait. Marcus's voice carried drowsy authority. Family field trip. Non-negotiable. Family. The word landed softly but significantly. Okay? Family field trip. They spent the day being tourists in their own city. Space Needle, Pike Place Market, ferry ride to Bainbridge Island. Lily ran ahead, Marcus and Victoria following hand in hand. On the ferry ride back, Lily fell asleep against Victoria's shoulder. Marcus snapped a photo with his phone. Send me that? Victoria's voice came out quiet, not wanting to wake Lily. Already did. Later that night, after returning to the apartment and putting Lily to bed, Marcus found Victoria staring at the photo on her phone. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I never thought I'd have this. Family, connection, someone's child falling asleep on me because they feel safe. Her voice cracked. I spent 12 years convinced I didn't need this, didn't deserve this. Marcus wrapped his arms around her from behind. You deserve everything, and you're going to have it. We all are. Victoria turned in his arms. I love you. I don't think I've said it directly. You haven't, but I knew. Marcus smiled. I love you too. Scary, impossible, formerly frozen you. They kissed, long and slow, promise and present tangled together. In the quiet apartment surrounded by Lily's artwork and Sarah's photos and the life Marcus had built from grief, Victoria Sterling finally understood. Home wasn't a place or a person. It was the courage to be vulnerable enough to need both. And for the first time in 12 years, she was home. Part 3 complete, 6,899 words. Total story, 19,693 words.